Nice.
What's it like? I was actually there in attendance in Cleveland for Coe's first career NFL touchdown, which was awesome. And,
Awesome.
It was a great game. You could hear me on camera. I was just screaming, "Say it ain't so, Coe! Say it ain't so!" Sadly, from there, the game kind of went off the rails a little. That was the last high moment of that game, but it was a great game. Overtime loss, fun time. How was that moment for you? Seeing the first, whether it was on TV, in person, wherever you were, seeing his first NFL touchdown. How was that?
Well, dude, I mean, we were at home because it was a away game. We don't travel to a lot of the away games because we can get into that later. But, to watch that and to think I wished I was there live. So to have your video was so cool. And just that, hey, this is so cool. I mean, that was so cool for us. Catching it from Tom Brady, right? Like he's got the ball yet. First NFL touchdown means a lot, right? I mean, as a dad, this is so cool to see. And it was fun to watch. And, it didn't have the outcome we wanted, but still the same. What a memory! What a memory to have, right? So,
and honestly,
cool.
those. One of the best guests ever, the Buccateers in the house tonight. You guys hear him on Tampa radio all the time. He's one of the best in the business. My favorite personal in the business. That's why I'm elated tonight. Growing up in the Chicago area, you're used to sports radio. That's what gets me through the day. So this man does help get me through the day, I will say, with the Pat and Aaron show at work. Nothing like it. So it's incredible. It looks like we got Stunna bumbling in. I'm Tampa Tones. We are joined by lead goon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little cleared. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like you got a little.
No, my camera's broke.
And he was trying to pull me in big time. And then I was like, nothing's happened with Indianapolis yet. Like, I really want to give Indy a chance. And then also I talked to Cody Gruden, once he took over Richmond Cannon, still like, well, look, I was like, y'all just give me the opportunity to explore free agency, see what's going on, and then can I make us do it?
All right, everyone, you are tuned into the Buccateers, a wide receiver, Kalen Geiger, and we are about to have a great pod. This is the Buccateers. You're tapped in, and here we go. Howdy ho, howdy hey, how the hell is everybody? Welcome back into the Buccateers podcast, a very, very special edition here on our hands for the first time in a couple of months before the holidays got all busy and times got, busy as well. Katz and I are back in the saddle again for a dive into the 813 Tampa Sports History Show. Today we're going to be highlighting some of our favorites and potentially least favorites free agent signings or offseason deals, or maybe people we hated to see leave in free agency or that the Bucs traded away in the offseason. We're going to be going over all that and more. It's a busy time of year. NHL trade deadline tomorrow. All eyes on the Lightning. NFL new league year begins in less than a week now. A week from today, to be exact, but less terms and hours. Trades are going to start happening and so much more. ACATs, we do have a little bit of breaking news here as we enter the show. According to Jeremy Fowler at ESPN, ACATs, the Buccaneers will not tender running back Sean Tucker, making him an unrestricted free agent, previously a restricted free agent. So, Cats, this means much like Marquise Watts and Christian Izzian, who the Bucs didn't tender, now Sean Tucker is part of the free agent pool as well. So the Bucs had 3 restricted free agents. All are now unrestricted free agents, as the Bucs didn't tender any of them.
I don't expect, I don't know about Marquise Watts. He never showed me much of anything. And I expect probably Sean Tucker and Izzian are probably going to look to places where they can get more, where they feel they'll get more guaranteed playing time. If they find it, they'll leave. They might look around and say, they might come back. You never know. I'd be surprised if they both came back, though.
Yeah, how have you been, Katz? I know the Lightning are heating up, and I want to ask you a question. This is a tough one, but you could only choose one. With the NHL trade deadline is a couple days away. Would you rather have the Lightning make a big-time trade in pursuit of their Stanley Cup, or would you rather see the Bucs land Maxx Crosby or Trey Hendrickson in free agency?
Not Hendrickson. I like Trey Hendrickson. Now the Bucs getting Maxx Crosby would be just incredible. So I'd probably take that one, although I'd take a Lightning trade over Hendrickson.
I like
get
that.
King Trey Hendrickson either.
Little bit of mix and match there. I like that. And there were reports that came out today, Katz, according to Adam Schefter, and then more Buccaneers and locals ran with it, that Trey Hendrickson would like to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. It's out there that he would prefer Tampa as his destination, and that kind of came out of the woodworks, Katz. And a couple of things you read behind the tea leaves about a guy like Trey Hendrickson, that makes total sense. Now, remember, it is smokescreen season. All these things could be part of a big charade or game, but if you look at it, Hendrickson's parents are from Orlando. He's from the Orlando area, so Hendrickson's parents still reside there. They would literally be able to drive down to Tampa Bay games, which is incredible for them to see their son. Number two, Katz, Trey Hendrickson still owns some property in northern Florida, so he know what the lifestyle like there. And maybe the Bucs could get a little bit of a discount since he knows how the taxes work, the property works, and all of that stuff. And obviously, it would be closer to his actual home as he lives in North Florida. And C, to top it all off, Katz, he also went to college at FAU. Granted, that's not specific Tampa area, but that's local enough where a guy who has ties to a college program as such maybe wants to play in an NFL area where he went to college as well, Katz. All these line up and make interesting points to me.
Yeah, I mean, he makes a lot of sense for the Bucs. I hope it's true that he'd like to be here, and I hope the Bucs are interested in his services. I mean, edge rushers aren't cheap. They don't, good ones don't hit the open market a lot. You saw, we opted for the buy low candidate last year. It didn't work out for us. Guys like Josh Sweat were out there available. We didn't pass on them. I didn't have a problem with it. I think this year you got to go with more of there aren't a sure things, but something more of a sure thing than Hassan Reddick was, and Trey Hendrickson actually played last season. Reddick come off a year where he didn't really play much. I was very excited to have him. It didn't work out. So I'd be all for bringing in Trey Hendrickson.
The great J-Lo podcast host of this program as well checking in, bring back Stammer and Lightning trade.
He doesn't want to be traded. The word is that he prefers not to be traded by the Predators. Which now, granted, his mind could have changed after the Preds start unloading people. So who knows? That wouldn't be shocking if he indeed says, "Yeah, I'd like to be moved." Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if the Lightning looked into that, but I'd say it's not a high percentage. Yeah.
Another thing is his price tag. It's at the $8 million range, Kat. So, 50%.
They need 50% to be retained, which can happen, but I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I would too. And obviously that's all these scenarios sound great, right? Like even Izzy and Tucker and Watts said maybe they'll come back for a cheaper price, but we know how that works. Everybody says they'll come back, but then you get settled in your new place and you get acclimated, and next thing you know, maybe you don't want to come back. So I think it's a mixture of things. Stammer's in the ladder of his career, as Kat said. I don't know if he'd actually want to leave. He just got settled into Nashville. That'd be a lot to get picked back up and go back on the road. And again, he chose to go there for a reason, right? It's not like the Lightning traded him there. He ended up going there. So he had to have somewhat of a choice. And for the Lightning, will they want to absorb that contract? Now, Katz, what say you here? I know earlier you did make a point. Is Parlay Pete is joining us live on Facebook, good friend of the programs. We appreciate him tuning into the show. But Katz, when it's broken down like this, and John Ledyard, formerly of Pewter Report, now does his own thing, knowledgeable Bucs brain. He put a trade proposal out there for Maxx Crosby. And John Ledyard did attend the NFL draft, which means he could possibly have heard some things, because agents are at the draft, obviously reporters, coaches, GMs. So who knows how much of a smokescreen this is, or who knows how realistic of a thought this is. But Katz, his trade proposal is Luke Gadecki, the 15th overall first-round pick the Bucs have this year, and a third-round pick of the Bucs next year for Maxx Crosby. And remember, Maxx Crosby makes north of $30 million a year. So would you rather get a guy like Crosby and give that capital up, Katz? Or would you rather give a guy like Hendrickson, let's say 25 to 27-ish million a year in free agency? He is a little older. He is coming off an injury, but as you said, he still played last year, still produced in the games he did play. Before last year, he made 4 straight Pro Bowls as well. And obviously, you wouldn't have to give up draft capital then. So, Katz, what say you? Trade Gadecki a first this year and a third next year for Maxx Crosby, which is John Ledyard's proposal, or sign a guy like Hendrickson, save on some money, not give up draft capital, but take a little bit more of a risk with age and injury history?
I think I would sign Hendrickson because it's a lot to give up. I mean, and I like Ben Chikuma quite a bit. He seems to be more of a left tackle. But then you're creating a big hole on your offensive line after we had a whole season where we were ravaged on the O-line. As great as Maxx Crosby is. So I would rather just sign Trey Hendrickson, call it a day.
I think I would agree with you there only because of that price is so steep. And again, Trey Hendrickson still produced, although a limited number of games last year, 7 games, 4 sacks. So, Katz, you say he played 14 games on average, that would be 8 sacks. Say he played 17 games, that would be about 10 to 11 sacks, which would be a breath of fresh air for this Buccaneers defense. Katz, Trey Hendrickson reminds me, he's at the point of his career to me when the Bucs got JPP. What say you on that? These guys are still prolific players. Obviously, maybe a little past their prime, but still 2 to 3 years of really good football left in front of them.
It's a good comparison. Yeah, JPP was no spring chicken when the Bucs got him, but they still got 3, 4 very effective years out of him. So, I mean, if you can get that out of Trey Hendrickson, I mean, that's fantastic. I could even take 1 or 2 at this point. It's so difficult getting an edge rush around here.
And that's what's crazy. Suddenly, between QBs, we saw Kyler get released, Derek Carr saying he's going to come back. Between QBs and edge rushers, seemingly there's a plethora now, Katz. Now you see the Vikings maybe shopping their prolific pass rusher in Greenard on the market. Now you see Giants maybe hunting Thibodeau out there. So I don't think the Bucs, although I think they're very much in the mix for Crosby, and I would think it's very realistic given the Spytek, Brady, and Light relationship, Katz. I think with all the other options available, the Bucs are going to dot their I's, cross their T's. I think they're working on something. I really do. Who that is or what that might be, Katz, I'm not sure. But all I can say is 1 week from now, when the new league year hits on March 11th, I think the edge room isn't going to get a Hassan Reddick type upgrade. But I think between a Thibodeau, a Greenard, a Khalil Mack, Bosa's out there. Obviously, Crosby and Hendrickson are the fan favorites. I think we're going to see some fireworks here in Tampa in that edge room in the real near future. You
have to, because you can't get by with what we've had for several years now. You have to. And what you really should be doing is bringing in multiple. And I don't mean David Walker might be a good player. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But what they did last year, now we look back on it. They kind of, they said, all right, we're going to sign Reddick and we're going to draft David Walker in the 4th round, and that's going to fix our edge rush. Well, it didn't happen. I think they kind of cut corners there a bit. You look at teams like Seattle, you look at us when we won our Super Bowl, you look at Philly, they bring in, even New England, I thought did it. You bring in multiple edge guys that can rush the passer, whether they're edge rushers, whether they're defensive tackles. You bring them in ways and you have them go out and get after the goddamn quarterback. And I just don't think we've done enough of that. We've tried at times, but it just feels to me like it's been a little half-hearted. And when you see teams like Seattle go and win the damn Super Bowl doing that, I mean, you couldn't do anything against that defense other than what we did. Yeah, I'd like to see, it's a copycat league and copy the best.
And as you said, New England did it last year by bringing in a couple high-profile guys. Philly's done it in years late where they kept adding, and they've won a handful of Super Bowls since they started that motto. Richard says, sign Trey, short-term fix. Will still have Walker and draft another. And Yaya. I think, yes, regardless, Katz, I do think they'll both sign/trade and draft an edge. I do think that could be true. And I think as much as I like him, I do think a guy like Anthony Nelson could be cut.
I could see that, and I like Anthony Nelson too. Although I would keep him and just cut Chris Braswell and call it a bust, and that's it. Because I looking around at him and some of the some of his Instagram posts, him doing. I don't want to go down this road. I don't really like the guy. I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't like him. I think he's a skeezy guy, and I think he's a half-ass player, and I just as soon like him off the roster. I'm going to leave it that way at that. I don't want to go down into too many rabbit holes.
And I agree with you. I mean, I feel like the guy could be putting in more work in the offseason too. We see him doing other things, which is fine if you're a star player, right? If you're Tom Brady of the world, do as you please. But
his religious forays, I'm going to just I'll say it. I don't know if you've seen it. His little religious trips and forays are bothersome to me. I mean, teach their own, that's fine, but you play for my favorite football team, and you've had 2 shitty seasons right now, and you couldn't even get on the field. That's where your focus should be. It shouldn't be on...
Yeah, and it seemed like, Katz, I agree with you completely. Even when the Bucs drafted him, I remember looking at him, and it seemed like in Braswell's history, not a lot of football, even tweets and stuff, it seems like it might not be a high-level interest for him, which is fine, right? Nothing against it, but don't make football your job then, right?
It's surprising that we picked him, because usually that's on the criteria, guys that love football, and maybe at one point it looked like he was that guy, but you see that first contract, you see that money hit the bank, and not everyone says, all right, let's go, let's get better. Some guys say, oh, cool, I just got paid, man. And they start venturing into other things, and he might fall into that latter category, unfortunately. And you just got to cut your losses.
Meanwhile, you got a guy like Levante David working out every day still. He's posting that on Instagram, and that's really what you see. And although Braswell came on a little bit at the end of last year, this is a time to show the fans I'm putting in the work. I'm going the extra mile. Instead, you're traveling, focusing on other things. He better have a big year if he's on the roster even. There's no guarantee that Braswell is on the roster in 2026. But if he is, we'll remember what he was doing in the offseason in terms of not putting in the work. And we'll see. I don't want to hear, oh, it's still early. It's March 4th.
Yeah, I mean, dude, you had a half a sack or something, or maybe 1.5 sacks last year. So, I mean, he didn't make much impact, so let's get on it now. Third year, sometimes, is the year for an edge rusher to make the jump, so we'll see. I'm not optimistic.
I do agree. Maybe year 3 he will make the jump, but, man, we're 2 months into the offseason. Get this fun stuff out. I get it, January, early February, you want to do it, sure, but by this time, you should be locked in. Free agency's about to hit. Whether you're not a free agent or you are, it could impact you directly if the Bucs bring in a couple edge guys. So this should be the motivational bump you're giving yourself. We'll see if he ends up playing better than we expect, but I just think that could be a little far-fetched. Again, you got a guy like Levante working out. It reminds me of Jameis. Remember when he was a free agent? Hate him or love him, he was working out every single day, Katz, posting. A guy like Jameis, whether you love him or hate him, you can never knock his work ethic. He was always putting in the work.
Oh, yeah, always work ethic was always there. Yeah, great teammate as well. Yep, no knocks there whatsoever.
What say you, real quick, before we do get into the Bucs offseason history, least favorite acquisitions of all time, whether it's trade or free agency, and maybe a couple of guys who we didn't like to see walk in free agency or trade? What say you on Levante and Mike Evans, two Bucs legends? Them two and Will Golston were the big three in terms of longevity. Sadly, we've seen Golston fall last year. Now, maybe Mike, maybe Levante. What say you on these guys? I think Levante's back. I think he would have let the Bucs know by now with free agency looming on their doorstep, Cats. If he was retiring, Levante doesn't strike a guy like me to make him wait to the wire and see, hey, I'm going to make the Bucs see, no. I think the Bucs and Levante both already know his future this close to free agency, and I think that he'll be back. I think he wanted a mini surgery, like they said. He probably wanted to see how he'd feel after the surgery, so he's probably working out to see how he responds to that injury. So what say you on Levante first and foremost?
Well, it's hard. I mean, it felt like, in that final game, he had a unique press conference where he thanked the media. It seemed like he was saying goodbye. I know this might sound hard to believe, but, remember he's got a daughter who says she would like it if he retired. I still don't think it's so hard. The longer you've done it, the longer you've played, the harder it is to walk away. Even though your body probably is telling you, yeah, I should, need surgery or not, and your family's probably, wants to. I'll be honest with you, I don't think he's coming back. I think he's going to call it a career, honestly. That's my gut feeling. I could be wrong, but my gut feeling is what it has been ever since before last season. Was that this past season was going to be his last season. But I hope I'm wrong. I'd love to have him back.
Hey, that's what we do like being wrong here on the program when it benefits the Bucs, and Cats hope he's wrong. I'm going to lean he's coming back only because I was in your boat 100%, Cats, until he made the comments that, hey, the only reason why I'm even considering coming back is Todd Bowles is back. So that kind of sparked something to me where, maybe Todd Bowles coming back had something to do with Levante, maybe whispering it. You never know. But I find it hard to believe he does that, and then he has surgery, and now he's already working out that fast after surgery. It seems like a guy, to me, he's testing himself right now. Hey, could I do it? Could I not? And I think we'll know here before free agency, Eileen, that he is coming back. By now, we would have seen a few flash plays for Braz, and we haven't. That is true. Hard to even think of a memorable play he made. Oscar in the house saying, what's up, guys? What's up, Oscar? Glad to have you back in, as always, here on the Buccateers. We're talking Trey Hendrickson, Maxx Crosby, Levante Evans, and all-time history in Bucs free agencies and acquisitions. Coach Tay, what's up, bro? Says Brent O'Neill. What's up, bro? We love you having here, Brent. Our guy, Matt Kratz, great friend of the program. Tony, loving the show tonight. Want to know your thoughts about if you think Tampa Bay will make a run at Maxx Crosby. Cats, real quick, last thoughts on Crosby. The Rams did make a trade today. They traded some draft capital for McDuffie, the defensive back from the Chiefs. They traded 4 draft picks. So, Cats, I think this is a team like the Rams that could have been interested in Crosby. To me, that puts him out of the running. I don't think you could give up more draft capital after that. And potentially, Cats, that opens up the door for the Bucs a little bit more to maybe be able to approach a trade for Maxx Crosby. One team closes the door, maybe a team like the Bucs open the door. And Albert Breer mentioned today as well that the Bucs do have their hat in the ring for Maxx.
Yeah, I think the Bucs are a contending team for him. I just, if I had to, yes, ultimately, I think, and I know John Ledger had that proposed trade, which doesn't sound awful, to me. Ultimately, I think the price tag is probably going to be a bit higher than that in terms of draft picks. And I don't think the Bucs are going to agree to whatever it is the Raiders demand. But, I think they're in the mix. I just don't see it happening. I'm not trying to be negative. I just don't see him ending up here.
Yeah, and he has a ton of suitors out there, right? Pretty much every team who needs an edge rusher is going to be going after him. Speaking of every team in need of a position, Mike Evans will be highly sought after. What are your thoughts on him, Cats? Is he staying? I still think he's staying personally. I think his agent's been doing a lot of smokescreenisms, although the Bucs fan base does seem a little bit more torn now than ever if they should bring him back, just given his price tag, given what it might negate the Bucs of being able to add on the defensive side. I think the Bucs should bring him back. I think he's back. What say you?
I think they should bring him back because, you can do. Well, there's so many ways to maneuver around the salary cap, it seems, and you push money back and restructure this and that and, create enough room to where you can bring Mike Evans back and still be able to make other moves. I'm honestly 50-50. That's my opinion on whether I think he's coming back. I want him back, but do I think he's coming back? It's 50-50 for me. His agent was on with T-Crafts here. It was kind of a little bit of an awkward kind of interview. The agent didn't give a whole lot, and yeah, it's 50-50 for me.
Is this the lowest you've ever felt confidence-wise on bringing Evans back, or did you feel the same a couple off seasons ago when he was a free agent?
No, I was not worried at all 2 years ago. I knew I fully expected him back. This time, this is a lot different.
Oscar, we said the same earlier in the show. If you did miss it, stay live with us, but then go back and check the replay after, as we are live here on the Buccateers podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe button, turn that notification bell on if you can. We appreciate it all. Memberships are now available on YouTube. Super chats are appreciated but never expected as well. Upcoming Buccateers schedule is a lit one. We will be back tomorrow on Pigskin and Pile Drivers. Thursday night, that is March 5th, 6 p.m. Eastern. We'll be doing a wrestling giveaway on there. Be on the lookout for that. Sunday, March 8th, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll be back with all sports talk. Monday, March 9th, our free agency special, 6 p.m. Eastern. We will be going over all the latest and greatest there. Wednesday, March 11th at 6 Eastern. Happy New Year. The NFL new league year begins for 2026. We'll be celebrating that. Monday, March 16th, 7 p.m. Eastern. Gene is back. Guess who's back? Back again. Buck what you heard's back. Tell a friend. Gene will be hosting that day, Monday, March 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern. And then Saturday, March 21st, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We got World Baseball Classic to recap, March Madness, free agency, so much more. So stay with us here on the Buccateers all off season long for not only Bucs talk, sports talk, and so much more. We have it coming. If Sonny is still available, they could still go after him also. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in Tampa land draft-wise, but first, we got to get through free agency, and that starts at Mike Evans. Katz, I still think his agent was agent speaking. Again, what twists my arm on a guy like Mike, his wife was the reason why he stayed last time. And if she's the reason why he stayed last time, Katz, I feel like she's probably not a lot has changed in her opinion. What say you?
That I would agree with. Yeah, I mean, she's used to it here. She loves it here. And hey, whatever it takes. I hope, whatever it takes to keep him, hopefully nothing has changed in that regard. And yeah, like I said, it's 50-50 to me, but that if he were to stay, that would be a big reason why, in my opinion.
And to me at this point, Katz, one more reason that I like Evans' chances of staying, comfortability in terms of what his production would be. He's not chasing that 1,000-yard record anymore, which he still wants 1,000, obviously. But now that the record's broke, it's not as important to him. Say, Katz, he stays here. He signs a pretty hefty contract. Say he catches 40, 50 balls, misses 5 or 6 games, still gets 6 or 7 touchdowns. No Bucs fan would be upset that he's back, right? But say he goes to a place like a Kansas City or San Fran for pretty big money. He catches 40 to 50 balls, misses 5 to 6 games, gets in the end zone 5 to 6 times. He's going to have a lot of flack on him for that type of production.
That's different. Yeah, you go elsewhere, it's much different. Here, we know how much he means to the offense, the whole offense. The whole offense runs through him, they've said. So, I hate having to think, not that we don't have, a talented group. But yeah, it'd be a lot different. They'd be very disappointed. They'd be saying, we've overpaid, blah, 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 blah. Here, we'd be like, hey, you're making an impact even when you're not catching the football and you're out on the field, you're making an impact. So we get it. We appreciate him. So yeah, and maybe that's a factor in his thinking. Maybe.
Richard asked if Mike leaves, would that be indicative that the Bucs aren't contenders? I don't say so necessarily. Maybe how close they are. I think he still thinks the Bucs are a contender regardless, Cats. But maybe it's the difference between thinking the Bucs are a playoff contender versus thinking a team like New England is a Super Bowl contender.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's that he thinks his team is capable of making the playoffs. It's does he think that they're him staying plus a few other, maybe a couple pieces away from being a team that can get over the hump. But I don't know how he views it. I guess we'll find out, right? I don't, but so it doesn't necessarily mean he thinks that this is a bad team. We're going to fall apart, but it might mean he thinks this team is just not, a player or two away from being a true contender.
The Bucs did re-sign quarterback Connor Bazelak today as well, former UDFA out of Bowling Green, a procedural move, Cats. He's making right over $1 million. This is a young kid who will stick around on the practice squad as QB3. In a weird way, he could help the backup learn the new system next year, as well as the Bucs surely will be moving on from Teddy Bridgewater. But what say you on that move quickly, Cats?
Yeah, smart move. Always good to keep someone around that knows the system and, like you indicated, can help teach your backup.
The Bucs did officially bring back Riley Dixon as well. He had a great end of the year last year. Now that's official. He is back in Tampa. He punted a rocky bit last year to start, but he ended really solid. So, Cats, I think Riley Dixon making $3 million a year for next season is a good thing here in Tampa too.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's it wasn't the greatest season, like you said. He finished it up better than he started it. But yeah, $3 million is good value. You're not overpaying, but that's fine.
We are live here on the Buccateers, talking all things Bucs, NFL free agency, lightning trade deadline, and beyond. But now it's time to dive into the 813, get our little history lessons on. And Cats, for the next 10 to 20 minutes or so before we wrap up the show, we're kind of just going to go back and forth here. No in particular number of people needed, and it could be a free agent signing you like, a trade you didn't like in the offseason, or someone that walked away that you regret letting walk away. We're kind of going to go back and forth here and have some fun and look back at some of the worst and best free agent signings, trades, and some of the worst or best departures of Bucs history. I'm going to start here, Cats, with Chris Swaggy Baker, the defensive lineman, coming into town, coming into Tampa, wasn't paid that handsomely, right? Like, he got paid decent at the time for his, his worth, his value. Going to pull up his contract. I think it was about 3 years, $12 to $15 million range. He was coming off some success with the Redskins for a long time before he made a deal with the Buccaneers. That was in 2017. He signed a 3-year contract worth $15.75 million. So I was right on par there. $9 million guaranteed in his lone season with the Bucs. He only got 33 tackles and a half a sack. The Bucs ended up cutting him, Cat, so it was pretty much 1 year for $9 million. Chris Baker here in Tampa. He seemed to be a cancer in the locker room. Terrible attitude. What say you on Chris Baker? Piece of crap, right?
Big waste. It turned a huge waste of money. A huge asshole. Non-factor on the field. Actually talked trash to the Bucs about the Bucs and their fans ever since he left. Didn't give a shit what the hell. Took the money, and I don't think he ever ran anywhere other than the buffet line. And yeah,
wasn't
one of the
worst fights with people at the hockey game too, or something.
Yeah, because he still rooted for the Capitals because he'd been in Washington. So yeah, a piece of shit. Just an absolute, and it made sense at the time because he had been a good player, and we were trying to, load up the roster, but wow, that just, what a waste.
And I liked him because he went to Penn State. I'm a Penn State guy, but even their Cats, he had 2 assault charges, and it put him on 2 years of probation. So clearly, this guy was a little bit of a loose screw to begin with. Yeah.
I mean, who knows what really happened, even in Washington, if he got in any trouble or not off the field. But yeah, just a bust of a signing. It happened. You can't blame him for trying to make an impact signing. It just did not work out.
And as you said, big signing. Just because it's a bad signing now at the time doesn't mean it was a bad one. That's when the Bucs had a lot of hype. They were going into Hard Knocks that year. A lot of people bought in. They tried to buy in as well. Adding Chris Baker, adding Bo Allen, those things didn't quite work. Olivia's saying, hello, fellas, the first lady of the Buccaneers checking in. Hello, Olive. But Katz, final thoughts on Chris Baker? I did mention Bo Allen as well, although he wasn't paid nearly as much or an asshole. But I remember on Hard Knocks, Chris Baker even just being ignorant on there. Bo Allen dressed up as an elephant. That was funny. But Katz, last thoughts on them. And then I'm turning you loose. You name a guy you liked or you didn't like walking or something like that too.
Yeah, last thoughts are it was unfortunate that he wore the Buccaneer uniform.
What say you on who you liked who came to Tampa, or maybe who you didn't like walking away, or who you didn't like?
Well, this is way too obvious, but I can't not mention I love the Tom Brady guy coming here.
Yes, here, hold on.
I don't know if he's maybe the best free agent signing in NFL history. Perhaps you could argue that. I'm sure there's others up there, but yeah, I mean that Bucs have had, and he's not the only special one the Bucs have signed. But wow, I mean that cancels out the likes of Chris Baker that you could only a few years later end up signing the GOAT.
And multiple things on top of the Brady thing, Katz. It's not like he asked for an exorbitant amount of money where it was like, oh, now the Bucs are handcuffed and they brought in Brady and now that's that. No, he was flexible enough. I think it was the upper 20 millions, but the Bucs were still able to add LaShawn McCoy. They were still able to add Leonard Fournette. They were still able to go out and get Gronk. They were still able to get Antonio Brown. They were able to make all these moves happen. Traded for Steve McClendon, D lineman, at the deadline that year. Brady was just the beginning of that, Katz. And then on top of that, being a Bucs fan, that was just something unheard of. A guy like Brady coming to Tampa, coming to play for the Bucs. Like, wait, is this real life? I remember when I'm not a huge Colin Cowherd guy, but he's the one who actually broke the news. But before it became official, I was kind of waiting on another source to tweet it, but I'll never forget driving home from work during COVID, Katz, and Colin Cowherd saying, my sources tell me Tom Brady's going to Tampa. I started hyperventilating damn near. I was like, holy shit, is this real life? Is Christopher Cole checks in? Richard throwing Hainsworth into the Baker category, nominating Shaq Barrett as well. But Katz, final thoughts on Tom Brady? That was just, again, beyond the Bucs for what he did for the city of Tampa in general. Just a shame, though, what his wife did to him when he came here.
Yeah, that is too bad about her and that whole thing. But yeah, I mean, just talk about culture changing, franchise altering move, and right away pays off with a Super Bowl for a team that hadn't been in the playoffs in 13 years to go make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl. So just incredible. And Shaq Barrett was a good one as well, Richard.
I think you could say between Brady and Peyton Manning, both of those guys going to new homes and winning Super Bowls after their, incredible careers. Nobody thought Peyton would leave. Nobody thought Tom would leave. Katz, I think that does show free agents out there, hey, it's okay if you end up somewhere else. You could still have success. Look at those two greats, two of the top 5 QBs of all time. Maybe it does tell a guy like Mike, hey, although Brady probably told him never leave Tampa, but who the hell knows? Now he's the owner of the Raiders, so he's probably telling him leave Tampa, which gets me upset at a guy departing, Katz, and that was Warren Sapp, who ended up going to the Raiders. Obviously, it was a part of a crumble cookie effect, I'll call it, not the actual cookie, but it was part of a crumble effect of that Bucs era, kind of slowly breaking apart. We saw Keyshawn and the coach go at it. Keyshawn and Warren get at it. Keyshawn got shipped out. John Lynch left for Denver. Then Warren wasn't that happy in Tampa. They ended up, giving him to Oakland. That was the one that killed me the most. I missed a lot of guys, Katz, but that was number one for me.
Yeah, stop leaving was tough. It looked like they were going to keep him. There was, from what I understand, Monty, rest in peace, was, didn't want him back necessarily, believe it or not. That's what I always what Warren Zappa said. Or that he preferred Booger McFarland at the time. So yeah, it sucked seeing him leave. They'd had a lot of cap problems too, as well. And that, there was only so many ways to, get around that. So that was, I agree with you. That one stung. Definitely.
Another ad that was terrible was Anthony Collins. Remember him, offensive lineman from the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bucs brought him in 2014. That was actually his last year in the NFL, Cats. But get this, the Bucs signed him to big money. And,
They did.
Given health concerns, they benched him and he never really played again. But thoughts on Anthony Collins? Do you remember that signing 12 years ago?
I do. Just a waste, and letting Donald Penn leave was terrible too. To replace him with Anthony Collins, I mean, you could tell right away Lovey was going. It was not going in the right direction, because Donald Penn still had quite a bit left in the tank and played for a while longer with the Raiders and was very good. And we end up with crap. So that was they had a whole bevy of lousy free agent signings that 2014 season. Him and Michael Johnson.
Remember him, the DN from the Bengals? He was a one and done with the Bucs as well.
Yeah, that was another just lousy signing. There was that whole group of guys. They spent a lot of money. It just none of them worked. Oh, Richard, Brooks. That really hurt. That was Mark Dominic's fault. Mark decided to cut him because Mark Dominic was a scrub and a shitty GM who never deserved to be a GM. And cutting Derek Brooks is just a classless, disgusting move by the worst GM in NFL history. That's why he's unemployed and always has been unemployed ever since he had the job that he didn't deserve. And it hurt me deeply that Derek Brooks couldn't go out on his own accord.
Yeah, we have a couple other mentions. Michael Bennett. That one didn't hurt me as much. I did like Michael Bennett, Cats, but to me as a person, wasn't the greatest of locker room compadres. That's just my opinion there. Revis walking hurt because as much as we gave up for him and his legendary, again, back then, that was when a guy like Darrelle Revis didn't come to the Bucs, right? And I know we traded for him, but Cats, just what we gave up for him to only see him play a year here, I think that hurt a lot. On top of Revis, name another person that you enjoyed either coming or leaving or hurt you coming or leaving to Tampa.
Well, I was going to say that I was very happy, when Simeon Rice came. I mean, many people felt that was the final piece of the puzzle for that defense. Another guy that I love coming here is Hardy Nickerson. He was a culture changer. It didn't happen right away. Those are some awful teams, and he was even a great player when they were an awful team, and then he was around for their renaissance when they originally changed the uniform in 1997. And was big in helping Brooks and Sapp and those likes come along. So Hardy Nickerson and Simeon Rice, both fantastic free agent signings.
One that was terrible, Deshaun Goldson, the safety. He was a Pro Bowl when he came here, Cats. But remember, he came here what Revis did. We tried to recreate the no-fly zone. He had a good first couple games with the Bucs, and then he got penalized after penalized for hard hits. And Cats, he came back looking a little timid, and Deshaun Goldson was just never the same safety. The Bucs ultimately gave him a lot of money for a short-lived career in Tampa.
Yeah, that whole thing, it was a good idea. They had Revis, they had Goldson, they drafted Mark Barron, and it looked like, they were on this upswing, and it just didn't work. It didn't work, and that was, again, I didn't mind signing him at all. I liked the way he played, but, unfortunately, he got penalized here a lot more than he did with the 49ers, and, it just didn't work.
Another guy, and again, this isn't for the person he is, Cats. This was for the player. And this is a time where Tampa didn't really get a lot of star power. He had an ascending career. His dad was great. I'm not endorsing the human he is, but I'm saying at the time it was a great move and an awesome move. I still remember it was a Friday when we got him, when the Bucs traded for Kellen Winslow Jr., Cats. That was a great feeling because it showed, that the Bucs are trying to compete, right? That was a move they didn't quite make back then. That was all the way back in 2009. B, we didn't give up a lot for him. And C, Cats, he ended up having a really nice 3-year stretch in Tampa. 884 yards, 730 yards, 763 yards. 2010, we had a great year. Remember, if it wasn't for Phantom OPI against him, we would have got into the playoffs. And as scumbag as he is nowadays, Katz, I think that was a really, really good ad via trade at the time.
That was a good ad. Absolutely, I agree. He helped the team, and a few years later, and may this gentleman rest in peace, signing Vincent Jackson was one of my favorite free agent signings. You could tell he was really happy to be here. Great attitude, incredible in the community, great player. Again, wish he was still with us, but was a very exciting free agent signing because we, like you mentioned, we hadn't really signed many. We were, it was tough for us. So, yeah, he was a great signing. Enjoyed his time here.
And I remember, to honor Josh Freeman, the QB at the Bucs at the time, to wear number 5, Vincent Jackson signed a 5-year, $55,555,055 $55.55 contract. Cats in honor of Josh Freeman. That goes to show the type of person he is,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, Joey Galloway. I see Richard loved Joey Galloway. We got him in return for Keyshawn, and we got the better of it. Yeah, Joey Galloway was a lot of fun.
Yeah, on the opposite end, he said Blunt was a fun ad. He was a UDFA, but I think we let him go too early, Cats. He still had a great career in front of him, LeGarrette Blunt. He ended up winning multiple Super Bowls at the time the Bucs got rid of him. I don't know quite what they were thinking.
I know what they were thinking. I know what happened. Well, I mean, for one, they drafted Doug Martin, also rest in peace.
Exactly.
Yeah, but also he was showing up to practice hungover all the time, and they didn't like that, so they moved on.
Yeah, a guy like Greg Schiano isn't going to tolerate that either.
I don't think most teams would tolerate players coming into practice and training camp hungover every day. I just don't think they,
Unless Raheem Morris.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I think with Raheem was hungover himself every day, so he was more than happy to allow it to happen. But yeah, it just didn't happen. We kept him 1 year with Schiano, and then apparently he kept showing up, hungover to camp. So that's why they moved on. He still was a heck of a running back, though. That's for sure.
Yeah, Schiano happened. He said, who else would you mention, Katz, whether it was a departure and arrival here in Tampa Bay?
One that hurt me was Warwick Dunn leaving. That was tough. I know he eventually later came back. But him leaving and we won the Super Bowl, because I believe we obviously would have still won the Super Bowl with him. That was rough because usually we didn't lose players due to money. And that's why we lost him. We just did not have the cap space to pay him at the time. We just had too much, and Atlanta was willing to whether Atlanta had it and they paid him. And yeah, it hurt seeing him leave, going to what was at the time became the division rivals. We changed divisions that same year. So seeing Warwick Dunn leave the Bucs really hurt. It was unfortunate for him that he didn't get to be here, win a Super Bowl. I wasn't really mad at him for leaving. We just, just couldn't pay him.
Yeah, Warwick Dunn's another great one. You're naming some great ones, Cats. One under the radar I'm going to mention, obviously not as prolific as Warwick Dunn, but had the Tampa Bay record for a good little bit. Matt Bryant, the kicker, he was a Buck. When times were tough for the Bucs to kick, we couldn't really find a kicker there. And then he comes in, makes a 62-yard walk-off against the Eagles. A couple of years later, the Bucs cut him. And then Katz, he goes on to be the Falcons kicker for 11 seasons.
Yeah. Another Mark Dominic disaster class. Cutting Matt Bryant. Imagine that. That was a shame to see him go because he made quite a few big kicks for us, and he made a lot of big kicks for the Falcons, who happened to play in our division, but somehow he wasn't quite good enough for our GM at the time, and that was too bad to see him leave. But I did enjoy his time here.
Yeah, that one was sad. One of the ones that was a terrible signing, and two kickers I'll mention. One was Nick Folk. He had the MRSA, no, I don't think he had MRSA. I think he just Lawrence Tynes had the MRSA because his wife was all unhappy about that cat. So I'll throw 3 kickers in then. Nick Folk, because he sucked here. Lawrence Tynes with the MRSA, and Chandler Catanzaro, who we gave big money to from the Jets and Cardinals, and then he didn't do shit. So I'll say 3 kickers in the drain: Chandler Catanzaro, Nick Folk, and Lawrence Tynes.
We had a hard time with the kickers for quite a while. We did. There's no doubt. We tried quite so much. It took a long time to get Ryan Suckup in here. There's a good one right there, signing Ryan Suckup, and then better yet, following that up by signing Chase McLaughlin. We were owed some good kicker luck, but we had such bad luck. That's really all it boiled down to, was signing kickers. And back to back, we got 2 good ones. So those would, come up as, 2 really great signings.
Really good points there. We'll do this for a couple more minutes. This is some fun. We're live here in the Buccateers. A little bit longer, talking our best and worst free agent and offseason acquisitions and departures of all time. Katz, this one's a throwback. Letting Steve Young go as early as we did was another debacle by Culverhouse and company. I mean, we literally got him in from a different football league to play for the Bucs, and then we gave up on him as early as we did to draft a not so very good quarterback higher than he should have been. It was just a disaster all around.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Nothing went right, was going right for the Bucs those days. Bad ownership, it trickles all the way down, and that's a good example of that. Unfortunately, but yeah, everything that happened in, the 80s, really, there's not much good that you could name that happened, and that's one of the many disasters that happened during that era. I will mention a quarterback that we did sign that was a great signing. That was Brad Johnson.
Friend of the program's Big Bad Brad.
Yep, Brad Johnson. It's a good thing they realized after being a starter for 1.5 years that Sean King sucked ass, and they were brave enough to say, let's go out and replace this little schmuck, that being Sean King. And they did with Brad Johnson, who was a great, great guy, great person, and instrumental in leading this team to their first Lombardi trophy.
Sean King's another thin-skinned dude who irritates me. He just, he just pisses me off, Katz. But
I can't stand him. I hate him as a quarterback, and I can't stand him. He's a whiny little bit.
Couldn't agree more with you. I like Jeff Garcia, Richard says. Yeah. Garcia, obviously a well-liked one, Katz.
Yeah, I like Jeff Garcia as well. He got us to the playoffs. He didn't win a playoff game, but he was a fun quarterback to watch, honestly. Kind of reminds me of Baker, to be honest with you. And I don't mean that as a bad thing. They both move around, create with their feet, aren't afraid to take off, take a hit here and there. So, yeah, I enjoyed watching Jeff this time here.
We'll each name another option or two and then give our final words. I'm going to go back and say what hurt letting a guy like Doug Williams go, especially the way we let him go, Katz. I mean, a guy who loses his wife after having a newborn tragically, and we're not willing to pay him more money after what he did for the league, and everybody talks so highly of him. That was the biggest Culverhouse debacle probably ever.
Correct. It was in bad form. It was classless. It made no sense for the organization, either on the field or off the field. So yeah, just certainly a major disaster class with that one, no doubt.
That was terrible. And Katz, what say you? Any others you like or didn't like?
I really liked bringing in Keenan McCardell's one. I really. Him and Joe Jurevicius, that. But, those two, I'm just going to name them both because they came here at the same time. Keenan McCardell, Joe Jurevicius, great additions to a wide receiver room that was very thin at the time. Gruden did a great job getting those guys in here and integrating them here. And, boy, they came up with big plays and big games. Two outstanding. And neither was an expensive signing either. They got them on pretty bargain deals as well. And all they did was come up with big plays and big games.
Gronk is another great one. We haven't really mentioned a ton yet, but Katz, I know his prime was behind him, but his first year when he got his legs under him In that Super Bowl, he caught a couple touchdowns. Just the fun he brought to Tampa with a guy like Tom Brady. Just two of the best ever at their positions to do it, coming here hand in hand, Tommy and Gronky. That was a fun time to be a Bucs fan.
It was incredible. I mean, whoever could have imagined such a thing would happen? And that, we deserved the break of Brady. I don't want to say he fell into our lap, and we recruited him hard to get him to come here. So it wasn't just like, oh, okay, no one else wants me. But, we deserved Brady all those years of picking quarterbacks high, guys coming in and out. We were like the Browns, going through so many quarterbacks and just nobody sticking. It was an incredible era, and winning the Super Bowl the first year. But yeah, him and Gronk, and then even, the others that came with them, Fournette, and even Antonio Brown. And yeah, that was a great move. All he gave up was a 4th-round pick for Gronk, and some people questioned, does he still have it? Oh, he still had it. He absolutely had it.
I was going to mention Antonio Brown as one I actually appreciated only because he helped win us the Super Bowl. Obviously, the way he left was just terrible. But, Katz, what say you on Antonio Brown? And anyone else you want to mention before we hop out of here?
Well, Antonio Brown, I'm grateful that he helped us win a Super Bowl, even caught a touchdown in the Super Bowl. So, it sucks that it ended the way it did, but it doesn't change that he helped us, win quite a bit of games, and including the Super Bowl. So,
on Werner, he had a first okay year with the Bucs, but after that, Katz, it was terrible. One cool thing he did do, I won one of his contests, so he sent me an autographed picture and a Bible one time.
I got that too. I got that as well from him. Yeah, really good guy. It didn't work out as far as the signing, unfortunately. It was okay. Basically, he was supposed to replace Revis, I guess, which is not really a fair ask of anybody. But that was part of that first year with Light and Lovey, where nothing went right for us, unfortunately.
That was a big free agent signing we had when it went official.
Yeah, that was, and it just didn't live up to what we had hoped for.
Anyone else you want to mention, Katz, before we give our final words here on the Buccateers? A deep dive into the 813 Tampa sports history. Katz and Tones here going over our top departures, our worst additions, and all our favorite and non-favorite off-season moves of all time.
That's about it for me. My mind, I'll probably think of more later, but that's all I got for now.
I think we could do a deep dive. I think it would last like 5-6 hours if we truly tried to get to all the good and all the bad ads, Katz. But what say you? Is Richard saying love you is bad, Lombardi, Lenny baby? Yeah, and even though LaShawn McCoy didn't play much between Lenny and LaShawn in that backfield, just providing a guy like Ronald Jones with that veteranship experience, Katz, showed how much it paid off. I mean, Ronald Jones was never the same after that.
No, he wasn't. It was the veteran leadership helped. Yeah, that was a fun discussion. Always good to take a trip down memory lane. Hopefully, maybe this offseason we'll see trade a free agent signing that'll enter as one of the best in the next time we have this discussion. Let's hope.
Yeah, that would be incredible. I mean, a lot of great names mentioned with Richard, Oscar, J-Lo, Olivia, everybody else tuning in and playing along. We will be back tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. Pigskin and Pile Drivers. We got a fun giveaway. We'll be talking any breaking news here in the Bucs. Katz, any last words for the program, brother?
Oh, go Bucs.
Fire the damn cannons, go Bucs. Awesome stuff, Katz. You are the man. Great talking again, Katz and Tampa Tones. Until next time here on the Buccateers, a deep dive into the 813 Tampa sports history. Hopefully the Lightning make a trade. Hopefully the Bucs make a move. Rays baseball in the near future as well. We'll be back next time. Katz and Tones. Peace. Fire the damn can. Bro, we'll put it like that.
Nice.
What's it like? I was actually there in attendance in Cleveland for Coe's first career NFL touchdown, which was awesome. And,
That was awesome.
it was a great game. You could hear me on camera. I was just screaming, "Say it ain't so, Coach! Say it ain't so!" Sadly, from there, you know, the game kind of went off the rails a little. That was the last high moment of that game, but it was a great game. Overtime loss, fun time. But how was that moment for you? You know, seeing the first, whether it was on TV, in person, wherever you were, seeing his first NFL touchdown. How was that?
Well, you know, dude, I mean, we were at home because it was a away game. We don't travel to a lot of the away games because we can get into that later. But, you know, to watch that and to think I wished I was there live. So to have your video was so cool. And just that, hey, this is so cool. I mean, that was so cool for us. Yeah, catching it from Tom Brady, right? Like he's got the ball yet. First NFL touchdown means a lot, right? I mean, as a dad, this is so cool to see. And it's just, it was fun to watch. And yeah, it didn't have the outcome we wanted, but still the same. What a memory! What a memory to have, right? So,
and honestly,
cool.
those. One of the best guests ever, the Buccateers in the house. You guys hear him on Tampa radio all the time. He's one of the best in the business. My favorite personal in the business. That's why I'm elated tonight. You know, growing up in the Chicago area, you're used to sports radio. That's what gets me through the day. So this man does help get me through the day, I will say, with the Pat and Aaron show at work. Nothing like it. So it's incredible. It looks like we got Stunna bumbling in. I'm Tampa Tones. We are joined by Lee Doon tonight, host of the Pat and Aaron show of WDAE, Pat Donovan. And it sounds like Stunna is bumbling a little bit. Going to put him on mute for a second until that gets a little clear. But we're joined by Pat Donovan.
It looks like Stunna's hanging out with Cheech and Chong in a car with the windows up or something over there.
It does look like he got a little...
No, my camera's broke.
And he was trying to pull me in big time. And then I was like, hey, you know, nothing's happened with Indianapolis yet. Like, I really want to give Indy a chance. And then also I talked to Cody Gruden, you know, once he took over Richard McCann, I'm still like, well, look, I was like, y'all just give me the opportunity to explore free agency, see what's going on, and then can I make it do it.
All right, everyone, you are